For decades, fans have been asking the wrong question. While thousands of theories try to identify Nala's father, everyone missed the shocking truth hiding in plain sight. Disney didn't accidentally leave this mystery unsolved. They deliberately created it, and the reason why changes everything we thought we knew about the Lion King. Think about it. In a story obsessed with family lineage, where every character's bloodline matters, half of Nala's heritage simply vanishes into thin air. It's not an oversight, it's by design. And once you understand why, you'll never watch The Lion King the same way again. While everyone focuses on Mufasa's legacy and Scar's betrayal, Disney quietly crafted one of their most brilliant narrative decisions. They didn't just hide Nala's father, they erased him. And that erasure gave them something they desperately needed: the perfect wildcard in Pride Rock's power struggle. You see, in the Pride Lands, every lion's position was defined by their relationship to the throne. Zazu served the king, Scar resented his brother, even Simba was trapped by his royal destiny. But Nala, her unclear heritage made her dangerous in a way no one expected. She could challenge both Scar's authority and Simba's choices without the weight of royal blood holding her back. But that's just scratching the surface. What Disney really did with this missing father figure goes far deeper than anyone realized. And when you look at what happened during Scar's reign, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. When Scar seized control of Pride Rock, his first move was eliminating anyone who could challenge his claim to the throne. He orchestrated Mufasa's death, tried to kill Simba, and kept a tight grip on anyone connected to the royal bloodline. Here's where things get interesting. He completely ignored Nala. Think about that for a second. A paranoid tyrant obsessed with eliminating threats to his power let a young lioness freely roam Pride Rock during his reign. If she'd been Mufasa's daughter, she'd have had a legitimate claim to the throne. If she'd been Scar's own cub, he would have used that connection to strengthen his rule. But instead, she was neither. And that's exactly what Disney needed. By making Nala's heritage a mystery, Disney created something unprecedented. A character who could move between all sides of the conflict without being bound by blood loyalty. She wasn't fighting for a throne or a birthright. She was fighting for survival. And that made her more dangerous than any royal heir. But Disney's master plan went even deeper. While everyone else in Pride Rock was paralyzed by their position in the hierarchy, Nala's undefined status gave her something nobody else had: total freedom to act. When the Pride Lands were dying, she didn't need permission to leave. When she found Simba, she didn't have to respect his royal authority. She could tell the future king he was acting like a coward because she wasn't bound by the same rules that kept everyone else in line. And that's where this mystery transforms from a simple, unanswered question into something far more significant. Disney didn't just hide Nala's father, they weaponized his absence. They created a character who could shatter the very power structure their story was built on. But the real genius of Disney's plan becomes clear when you look at Nala's relationship with Simba. Every other character in his life was a constant reminder of who he was supposed to be. Timon and Pumbaa represented his escape from responsibility. Rafiki carried messages from his father's ghost. Zazu was a walking reminder of royal protocol. But Nala, she was something entirely different. Without a defined place in Pride Rock's hierarchy, she became the only character who could truly challenge Simba as an equal. When she found him in the jungle, she wasn't just another voice telling him to be like Mufasa. She was living proof that the Pride Lands were more than just royal bloodlines and ancient traditions. She represented something that even Simba's own father never taught him: that true leadership isn't inherited, it's earned. And this is where Disney's hidden brilliance really shows. By keeping Nala's father a mystery, they avoided the biggest trap in their own story. If she'd been connected to either royal line, her entire relationship with Simba would have been tainted by politics. Every interaction, every challenge, every moment between them would have been clouded by questions of power and succession. Instead, they created something unprecedented in a Disney story: a princess who earned her crown not through birth or marriage, but through pure force of will. While everyone else was caught up in who should rule Pride Rock, Nala was the only one actually doing something to save it. She didn't wait for permission, she didn't follow protocol. She crossed the desert alone, faced unknown dangers, and dragged a reluctant king back to his throne. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn, because Nala's uncertain heritage didn't just make her powerful, it made her dangerous in ways that would come back to haunt everyone in Pride Rock. What most people don't realize is that Nala's mysterious background created a terrifying possibility that Disney carefully wove into their story. In a pride where bloodlines determined everything, her undefined heritage made her both invaluable and incredibly vulnerable. She wasn't just living under Scar's reign, she was surviving it in ways no other lion could. Think about what we actually see during Scar's rule. While other lionesses are clearly suffering, Nala not only survives but thrives enough to become strong enough to make that dangerous journey to find help. This isn't just luck, it's strategic. Scar couldn't eliminate her like he did Mufasa, but he also couldn't fully trust her. She existed in a dangerous grey area that forced even a tyrant to tread carefully. And this is where Disney's story gets darker than anyone realized. That famous scene where Scar suggests making Nala his queen, it wasn't just about power, it was about legitimacy. By trying to bind her to the throne through marriage, he was attempting to do what everyone else had failed to do, define her place in the hierarchy once and for all. But because her heritage remained a mystery, she could reject him in a way no other lioness could have dared. But the real darkness lies in what this mystery cost her. Every other character in Pride Rock had a legacy to either live up to or reject. Simba had Mufasa's example. Scar had his bitterness about being second born. Even Zazu had his family's history of royal service. But Nala, she had to create her own identity from scratch, fighting for respect in a society obsessed with bloodlines and birthrights. And that's when you realize Disney's most brilliant trick of all. They didn't just hide Nala's father, they made his absence the source of her power. But this power came with a price that would eventually force her to make an impossible choice. This final twist becomes clear in the movie's climactic moments, when everything about Pride Rock's power structure suddenly shifts. While everyone focuses on the battle between Simba and Scar, something far more significant happens. Nala's undefined status suddenly becomes her greatest strength, because when the Pride had to choose between following Scar or supporting Simba, guess who they looked to for guidance? The one lion whose loyalty couldn't be questioned because it was freely given. Think about what Disney actually showed us. When the final battle begins, it's not Simba who first challenges Scar's hyenas, it's Nala. She leads the lionesses into battle not because of any birthright or royal claim, but because she earned their trust. In a story obsessed with who deserves to rule, Disney quietly showed us that true leadership isn't about who your father was, it's about who you choose to be. And this is where Disney's master plan finally reveals itself. They didn't just hide Nala's father to create mystery, they did it to show us something revolutionary. In a kingdom ruled by bloodlines and birthrights, they created a character who proved that legacy isn't inherited, it's built. Every other character in Pride Rock was trapped by their heritage. Simba had to be king because he was Mufasa's son. Scar was bitter because he wasn't. But Nala, she became a leader because of what she did, not who her father was. This changes everything about how we see the Lion King. It's not just a story about a son living up to his father's legacy. It's about how true power comes from choosing your own path. Disney didn't just leave out Nala's father. They proved he never mattered in the first place. And in doing so, they created something far more powerful than another royal bloodline. They created hope, because in the end, Nala's mysterious heritage didn't make her weak. It made her the strongest character in the entire story. While everyone else was caught up in who deserved to rule Pride Rock, she showed us that true belonging isn't about where you come from, it's about what you're willing to fight for. So the next time someone asks you who Nala's father was, you'll know the truth. Disney never wanted us to know, because this wasn't a plot hole or an oversight, it was a deliberate choice that created one of Disney's most powerful stories about identity and leadership. In a kingdom obsessed with bloodlines, they gave us a character who proved that your legacy isn't determined by who your father was. It's created by who you choose to become. And maybe that's why this mystery has fascinated fans for decades. We keep searching for Nala's father because we're asking the wrong question. The real story isn't about who was missing from her life. It's about what that absence created. A leader who earned her place, a warrior who chose her loyalties, a queen who proved that true power comes from what you do, not who you're born to be. Disney didn't just hide Nala's father, they showed us that sometimes the most important part of your story isn't who's in your family tree. It's who you become when you're free to write your own destiny. And in a world where we're all trying to figure out where we belong, maybe that's the most powerful message they could have given us. But here's one final thought to keep you up at night. What if Nala's father isn't the only secret Disney's been hiding in plain sight? Because once you start looking at their other stories through this lens, you might find that some of their biggest mysteries aren't accidents at all. They're invitations to look deeper. Let me know in the comments what other Disney mysteries you think might be hiding something bigger than we realize. Because sometimes the most powerful stories aren't about the answers we find, they're about the questions we never thought to ask.